But let me first begin by sharing with you something that took place a number of years ago. One of my an event I attended where I spoke. We're talking about, it was there a discussion about the environment, about in general, not just global warming, but protecting nature, the environment, and an argument broke out between two different individuals. And here's essentially what the gist of it was. They were both smart. There were other people around. I just sat quietly at the side and didn't say much, but it struck me because they both used the same line. They both said, follow the money. So one of them said, who's very into the green industry, the greening, which of course is eco-friendly products and recyclable and reusable energy, which has only become obviously much more prominent of late. And he was saying, look, the fact of the matter is energy is limited, and we can find much cleaner and better energy, and ultimately also cheaper energy. But the old industries, the people who control the fossil fuels and the oil and gas, natural gas and so on, are invested in controlling the market, and they want to make their money. They're not interested in new other alternative methods. The other guy responds the exact opposite way. He says, no, it's not true. It's the green energy. It's the new renewable energy that is looking to make money. And because they're looking to make money, that's why they're invested in it. Because you see, when it comes down to it, it's about business. And if it was just personal, look, some of them, people who are really very heavy into the new energy, we'll just call it new energy, are living in homes where they waste a lot of energy and they're wealthy and they don't really care. So it's about money. They could not resolve this issue because once you bring in the money issue, it becomes a matter of subjectivity, self-interest, and how much of that is true. And I was thinking about it and I say, well, you know what? Maybe they're both right in a certain way. People always have agendas. Are we talking about people who are just pure divine in spirit, generous in spirit, and don't really have any personal gain? And they're just arguing the point of what energy is the better energy to use? I mean, we all could agree, if we had no stake in it, that obviously better forms of energy, cleaner energy is healthier and better for the planet, and so on. So how much is it tainted by in the private interests, individual interests, interest groups, as they put it? How many of them are lobbying Washington? How many of them are on PR campaigns to try to convince us, when really their agenda is not just for our benefit, but for their gain? So then how do you make heads or tails out of this when you have that subjective element? So many of us just step back and say, you know what, I'm not sure myself. And again, this is not about the merit of the issue. The merits seem to be obfuscated and clouded by the fact that we are dealing with these subjectivity and this now with politics involved. And once you get into campaigns and people who want to be in power, how much of it is a power play, etc., etc. So how do you step back and think like an intelligent person? And I hope everyone understands where I'm coming from. I have no political agenda. I have no stake. I have no financial stake. I'm looking at it as trying to be an intelligent, objective human being, looking at the whole picture. I think we all could agree, if we took any self-interest and make it a non-emotional, non-partisan, a non-personal discussion, yes, if you can find better forms of energy that are better for the planet, better for human beings, cheaper, cleaner, etc., who would disagree? So how do we get clarity here? So I want to come from a perspective, yes, I'll call it the Kabbalah of global warming. You could say the Kabbalah of environmentalism, the Kabbalah of preserving this planet which we're blessed to live on. So what lies at the heart of it all? What lies at the heart of it all is that throughout history, people have always looked for ways to improve their lives. And development of energy, of all forms of energy, is very much part of it. I mean, in essence, you can say all of technology is using less human energy to produce more results. So if you can create industrialization where with the press of a button you can produce 1,000 times more horsepower than actual horses or cows or animals, then you've achieved something. But there's a price to pay, because industrialization, just to use that as an example, has to in some way has side effects. It could have other impact. In our case, it could be the emissions of carbons and other emissions that ultimately can also have a negative impact on nature. Look, the fact that we've developed plastic bags, plastic preserves, it's a very good, from the point of view of efficiency, it's excellent. But then plastic bags accumulate and they cause a lot of damage, especially in water and wildlife, and including marine life and so on. So you have to always weigh the two. Now, once you get money into the picture, as I mentioned, then of course people are invested, because either it's their industry or their industry is the competition. So that money comes into play. So then, of course, we create watchdogs, whistleblowers. People are supposed to be objective and watch over for the good of the people. Since you have subjective interests, especially financial interests, someone should be looking out. What other factors determine, therefore, when you weigh the pros and cons of any type of technology? We have developed fossil fuels. So basically 120 years old, when oil was first discovered, which were very much part of the industrialization and the development of so many technologies, including the automobile and airplanes, and the different ways of harvesting food, etc., etc. Not talking about all the other technologies, which only increase and amplify the picture. Okay, so now that we have that, then we discovered after a while, for all its benefits, it has its side effects. It affects nature. I remember in the early 70s, when I was going to high school, there was much talk about the fact, I remember our teachers telling us, the science teachers, that by the year 1990, I'm talking about the 70s, 1990, all the resources, all natural resources like fossil fuels, oil, natural gas, etc., including food, will be depleted because the population is growing. There won't be enough for anyone. But it didn't work out that way. First of all, we learned to conserve energy. Second, due to whatever the embargo or other factors. Secondly, we learned how to also develop food in ways that we didn't expect. And finally, there were many more resources than we could ever imagine. No one now is going to make a prediction when will fossil fuels be depleted from under the earth in the places in the world where that are rich, oil rich, or fossil fuel rich. Why? Because no one really knows. My point is not that they were wrong. Of course you do everything to conserve. But what factors determine? So the Kabbalah of global warming and the Kabbalah of all these issues, we talk about one more point that most people do not discuss. We're discussing, are we able to benefit from something and destroy the earth in the process, therefore basically benefiting today, but our children and our grandchildren will have to pay the price due to our so-called indulgences and being spoiled. So the care is, of course, the natural earth, but there's one more factor, and that's what Kabbalah brings into the picture, the sanctity of life and the sanctity of the earth. There's an actual statement, there's a prohibition, a divine prohibition. Do not destroy anything for no purpose. Or basically, do not destroy anything, because if it has a purpose, it's not destroying. You're not allowed to even take a leaf from a tree and rub it for no reason. It's a beautiful story that always touches me. That when the fifth Chabad Rebbe was walking with his little son, or it wasn't so little, his son, they were taking a walk in a garden. And his son took a leaf and just rubbed it. They were discussing something, and his father reprimanded him and said to him, what right do you have to disturb the trajectory of this leaf? Just rubbing it for no reason. So there's another element that, especially from the Kabbalistic point of view, that everything has divine sparks. And as such has divine power and energy that we have no right to tamper with. So you'll ask the questions, how can we eat? Whether it's animal, vegetable, or mineral. And those that say, hey, I have no problem with vegetable and mineral, but I have a problem with eating animals. Well, from this point of view, everything should be forbidden. What right do you have to disturb the trajectory of a mineral? Salt, water. and other objects. The fact that there's so much of it, the fact that you can't live without it. Someone once told me who's vegetarian. I said, and vegetables you are allowed to consume? He says, well, then we'll die. I said, so your life is more important than the vegetables? Who determined that? So here's the question. Here's how the Kabbalists address it. They'll say, the truth is we have no right to consume or touch or in any way tamper with, not just smoke alarms and airplanes, with any item, any iota, every fiber of existence which is sacred, is brimming with spiritual energy, not just pulsating with subatomic energy, but with spiritual energy. What right do you have to take it? Except there's an exception, because the same divine energy that invested and created these said, I give you permission. If you consume mineral, plant, or animal for a purpose that improves the world productively, then you're elevating those sparks. And that's where the Kabbalah speaks about elevating sparks. But only on that condition. Should you indulge for your own interest, for your own selfishness, and there's no greater benefit coming from it, what right do you have to do that? There's an expression, a Hasidic expression, that a wicked person walks on the street, the cobblestones cry out, metaphorically. What right do you, a wicked person, have to walk on me? We never transgressed. We never went against the divine plan, the cosmic order of existence. You, a transgressor, what right do you have to walk on me? So in other words, the universe is a sacred universe, and every detail of it, every fiber, every cell, every DNA is brimming with powerful energy, waiting to be released for positive purposes to transform the world into a better place. So when you take that into account, then the environment, and including global warming or any other impact on this universe, is not just a matter of convenience that we have no right to destroy the world for the benefit of those beyond us. Because let's say all the human beings on earth said, you know what, we want to benefit from it right now, who cares what happens? But there's another element. We have an accountability to a higher power, to a higher order. And that is not something that's negligible. It's not like you're saying, okay, if I make enough money, or if I personally benefit from it, okay, it's fine. Or if we collectively benefit from it. No, it's not about you. It's about divine purpose, a higher purpose. So therefore, the issue of global warming, and I'm not getting now into the merits of the arguments one way or the other. That needs to be established as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. So then the issue is also, just like with a leaf, what right do we have to do something, whether it's to do air conditioning or because we love meat and meat consumption and other factors that contribute to, in a way, that the carbon monoxide that is released that ultimately affects the weather and affects the universe and planet itself, and even puts it in danger, as some argue. We don't have a right because of this higher divine and sacred element to it. And when you go with that approach, that's the only thing that matters. It's not finance, it's not personal interests, it's not interest groups and other type of factors that are all about yourself. So if someone argues, they can make a beautiful argument, a great PR campaign. You find out it's just simply someone wants to profit. And then you have someone profiting from the other extreme. It's like that joke about that the same manufacturers of radars for police to catch someone speeding are the same ones that manufacture radar detectors. So you have basically manufacturers of the mice are also manufacturing the mouse traps. Better mouse trap, you need a better mouse. You need a better radar detector for a better radar, then a better radar to be able to counteract the better radar detector, and it becomes this vicious cycle. So then the question is, how then do we determine? So there's a few factors that we have to take into account. Let's not forget the subjectivity. The first thing is important. When I hear someone as an alarmist, one way or the other, an alarmist say the whole thing is a conspiracy theory. Whether the conspiracy theory is the technologies being developed of alternative energies, or the conspiracy of those that don't want to allow that, the first question you ask is, who's behind this? So if you really want to look into it, you may discover that there are interests, special interests in both regard, as I mentioned earlier. So then what do? So if you really, really care about the planet, and you really care about the higher plan, you need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. Every moment we make decisions. How much waste do we produce? How much food do we throw out? If we begin to look at our personal lives and see the world around us, our corner of the world as sacred, begin with your own personal life. Before we change the world, what are you doing with your own personal life? I met someone, I'm getting a big environmentalist, and I don't know, the conversation came around and he started talking about personal matters and he was having a lot of problems at home. Later, one of his children tells me that unfortunately this man is physical with his wife and with some of the children. So I said to myself, look at the irony. He's ready to protect the environment and he considers it to be his life calling, but he can't keep his hands off hurting somebody, a human being. Is that not abuse? So I'm not suggesting we're all perfect and two wrongs don't make a right, but does he understand his own hypocrisy? And then when you start looking, okay, this is how he's making a name for himself. He's developing a technology. He hopes to make a patent. And he may be doing good things. But let's put things into context. So I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be fighting for the sanctity of this earth. On the contrary, I, for one, think it's a matter of sanctity. It's not just a matter of personal interest and coexistence and making sure this planet will be as healthy as possible. Or that when you see pain, when you see an animal suffering, or you see wildlife or marine life being depleted due to human effort, to human transgressions, of course it affects us. But is that the only factor? And what happens if you didn't see it? Or you don't mind because there's so many animals out there anyway, and the environment is able to regenerate itself? So it's a combination of us appreciating the sanctity of everything, but also being smart and wise and seasoned in recognizing there are interests. So my suggestion starts from your own life. How do you treat yourself? How do you treat other people? Even mutilating yourself is considered from the Kabbalistic point of view prohibited. Why? You're only hurting yourself. You're not allowed to mutilate because it's not your body. You didn't create your body, just like you didn't create the environment. It's not yours that you can do whatever you wish with it. It's property. It's divine property that was given to you for caretaking. Someone gives you a gift. You don't give it back to them. Mutilate it. So it's all based on the same thing. Respecting your own life, not as yours, but as part of something greater. Respecting the people around you, immediate family, loved ones, strangers. Treat everyone with that sanctity. Not just the ozone layer, and not just renewable energy. That's part of it, which I'll get to in a moment. But start things that you have control over. Most of us don't have control over the big developing technologies and the battles that have been fought and will be fought. So begin with appreciating the sanctity, less waste. My great teacher, my mentor, which I learned from, became second nature, would never use extra paper. He would write his answers on the back of an envelope. And not because he was cheap, the opposite. He appreciated everything, and everything should be used to the fullest. As much as possible, I print. I do a lot of printing, obviously, as a writer. So I print always on the back of paper. People look at me and say, why do you have this? Why is your bill on the other side of the page? And again, it's not about cheapness. It's just using things to the max. In the temple, the holy temple, nothing was extra. Everything was used to the fullest because it's a show of respect that you use something completely. So demonstrate that in your personal life. That's the beginning of the Kabbalah, not just of global warming, the Kabbalah of your own appreciation of the gifts we were given, whether it's food, whether it's objects, whether it's technologies. We take so much for granted. We just do things without even thinking twice. Yeah, turn off the lights when not necessary. The whole universe wasn't created just for you and you could do whatever you want with it. It was created for you to be responsible for it, to be a gardener in this great, beautiful cosmic garden. And yes, now that extends to the environment. When you have that attitude, you will treat human beings sensitively. You'll treat animals sensitively. You'll treat, yes, plants and vegetables sensitively. And even mineral, everything. Every atom, every subatomic particle. They talk about how many bacteria does a person kill when they get out of bed in the morning. Okay, most of us are not aware, we don't even think about it. And some things are not in our control. Every move you make is going to affect something. But the world also has a very profound and mysterious resilience. That doesn't mean we should do anything to hurt it. We have to do everything, as I said, it's a sacred mandate, a divine mandate that we must protect our world and our environment and everything, even the leaf of a tree, as I mentioned. So when you have that attitude, you know how you look at global warming, at energy, you'll see it as a sacred gift given to us. And how are we using it? Are we using it for the best? Are there leaders today that think that way? Or does it all come down to economics and business, follow the money? I hope there are. But the more of us, grassroots, that demand that approach and attitude, and absolutely insist on total disclosure and total transparency of your interests, I assure you, we can create a revolution in this regard. Now, people don't talk about it this way because we get stuck in this polarized argument. Are you for green? Are you anti-green? Are you a denier of science? That seems to testify that global warming is a reality. Look at the changes of weather. Look at the volatility. Or the other extreme, you find that there's somebody who's advocating has own other interests. And I'm not trying to disqualify any of the science. Scientists themselves have disagreements. Scientists themselves, just like doctors, can also be paid by lobbyists. And I'm not suggesting everybody's corrupt. But you know what? Biases and prejudices have impact on our approach to life. That is why we need to be, from the bottom up, grassroots, people who are, our call, our mandate has to be a clarion call. We are here to respect the dignity and the sanctity of every fiber of existence. And anything that can be done to cause less damage to our environment, less damage to our atmosphere, must be done. Anything that can be preserved, can be recycled, can be renewable, by all means. Let us take responsibility, but the sanctity of it. It's not the business of it. Now, if somebody makes money in the process of doing so, by all means. We're not talking about that people can make money, but it should be transparent and open, so we know that that is not influencing people's decisions in either exaggerating or over-exaggerating or under-exaggerating the given situations. So, with that in mind, here I am, Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. We're committed, exactly that, meaningful life, to find a purpose in every iota, in every cell, in every fiber of existence. And definitely in respecting each other in the most profound way, allowing ourselves to communicate, which is why I welcome, more than welcome, I encourage you to please share, like, comment, even if you disagree with me. It's perfectly fine. You have that sacred right to do so. And let's talk, which is also becoming a rare commodity today, the ability to communicate, especially people who may have different approaches to things. And maybe all celebrate the sanctity of our own little life. Our little life is not so little. As one great Rebbe once said, one great rabbi, mystic said, that to discover the greatness in every small thing and the smallness in every great thing, and recognize that in our lives. Stay in touch. It's been a pleasure as always. We're here every Sunday. I do a live, meaningful live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please share, communicate, like, subscribe, every possible way. Let's stay in touch, and let's create the revolution, this grassroots revolution of the Kabbalah, the sanctity of life in general, including everything on this globe. Be well and be blessed and stay healthy. Thank you so much.